Sorry.
Okay, it is streaming now.
Okay, it's streaming.
Yeah.
Great. We'll just wait for the last few folks to join us. I think we're just waiting on 2 more people. They just went inside.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see everybody was out.
No,
I think Lucas went to snag them.
Yeah. I think Lucas went to go get them. Come on over. There we go. Great. Yeah.
Here's shade.
There's a few shady spots at the front there.
Like the sun? I think we got everybody. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for being here. My name is Donnell Merzinski-Obiakwe. I'm the Major Giving Manager with the Dolores Project. And I want to begin by expressing my heartfelt thanks for your presence here today. It's wonderful to see familiar faces and new friends gathered for such a meaningful occasion. Today we come together to honor Cathlin Donnell's legacy, a legacy of compassion, generosity, and lasting impact on the Dolores Project and beyond. This event is a reflection of the deep connection that so many of us feel to Cathlin and to the work she championed. We are incredibly fortunate to have Diana Poole, one of Cathlin's closest friends here, who will share a glimpse into the extraordinary person that Cathlin was, followed by our CEO, Emily Wheeland, will speak to the progress and the future of the Dolores Project. At the end of the program, we'll be giving a tour of our entire facility, and we hope you can join us. As we begin, I invite you to reflect on Cathlin's remarkable spirit and the lasting impact she's left on all of us. Her commitment to improving lives continues to inspire our work here at the Dolores Project, and we're excited to share how we are carrying forward her vision. I thank you again for being here, and I hope you enjoy this day celebrating Cathlin and her enduring influence on the Dolores Project. And I want to invite Diana Poole to take it.
When you're told I think Tab would appreciate. Yes, she would definitely appreciate the preparation. She really would. And still think it's not enough. But when you're told make a few remarks about Cathlin, I think everyone here knows her or knew her, and it's difficult to make a few remarks about such a remarkable person. So I thought, well, I've got to collect my thoughts. So anyway, all the things I could talk about. I could talk about her mind, her prodigious mind, which was, manifest in so many ways, but probably most clearly in her practice as a lawyer and as an advocate. First as a prosecutor in Denver District, at the Denver DA's office under Dale Tooley, and then in the U.S. Attorney's office under Jim. This was before my time. Treese. Then in private practice too at Kelly Hagen, Garnsey and Kahn. There's the law from are here, and then creating her own firm, Donnell, Davis, and Solomon, women-only firm. But I think one of the things that just speaks volumes is when Therese left the U.S. Attorney's Office after the 1976 election, Cathlin was unanimously appointed the interim U.S. Attorney by the judges on the Federal District Court in Colorado. And I think is probably still, at 30, the youngest person that has ever been so appointed. At 30, she was 30 when that happened. So I could talk about her spirit of adventure and her courage, whether she was running her solo raft over rapids in the Grand Canyon, or whether in her, her advocacy and her opposition to the abuse of power. One example, where she represented 5 clerks in the Federal District Court who felt they were being treated unfairly by the court. She took that on when many lawyers in town wouldn't touch it because of the impact they felt it might have on their own careers. So, she was fearless in confronting power and influence as well. But given time constraints and where we are, I feel like obviously the thing I should focus on is her commitment to really being a constructive force in the world for constructive change. And she did this in the legal community through her work on the Gender Bias Task Force, her work in jury reform, her work on the income inequality between male and female lawyers. But she was also a force in the larger world. And one of the things that I think is so incredibly impressive about her is she was a force in the larger world right up until her death and even while she was dying. And that brings us really to the Dolores Project. But I have to tell you a little backstory. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1992, and it was treated, and she was hopeful. But in 2000, she learned that it had metastasized. And within a week of it having metastasized, she contacted her father to ask whether he would consider giving her her inheritance that she would be and had been entitled to as she outlived him. And she contacted me about creating a private foundation to give away both her remaining resources and her misexpected inheritance. And that was how the Donnell Initiative Fund was born. A private foundation that was initially just Cathlin, her father, and I on the board. Later, as her death became more imminent, we added Pam Gable and Beth Bryant, who I know many of you know. Cathlin didn't want a foundation that was set up in perpetuity. She wanted her money out there in the world doing work. So she set a 10-year time limit on the foundation. She wasn't interested in a particular subject matter, but she did her long-standing interest in gender equity, in issues of class and privilege, and her love of wild places, particularly the rivers and canyons of the West, informed our projects. But most of all, she wanted to give her money to people who, sometimes they're called social entrepreneurs. I don't know if that's the word she would have used, but they were people like her. That is, people who saw a problem in the world, had a new idea about how to approach it, and had the resource, had the wherewithal to gather the resources, both material, both financial and otherwise, to actually make it happen. And that's the person we found when we found the Dolores Project. We were doing research around chronically underserved, single homeless women. Shift emergency shelter out of leased/borrowed space from Brothers Redevelopment. She had that space 6 months a year, and she could house about 36 women. And her dream was to have a permanent location where she, I'm getting ahead of myself. Cathlin and I went to the and the minute we walked into this space, we knew it was different. It didn't feel like a shelter. And Julie called it the hospitality model. And it may not sound very revolutionary, but that may be because more service providers now realize the impact it has on people if you treat them like their lives like you would a friend in need, rather than a problem to be managed. And that's what the Dolores Project was doing. Julie's dream was to have a permanent location that could serve more women using this hospitality model. And Cathlin really helped make that happen. She looked for property and vetted potential property that was being considered. Once a decision was made to bid on city-owned property, she used her connections at the city to help make that happen. She provided, her first grant was just a $10,000 grant for earnest money that was required when you bid on city-owned property. She then made another $10,000 grant to cover some other pre-purchase expenses. She then kicked off a capital campaign with a $250,000 grant to this capital campaign to both purchase and renovate the building. Added that grant, pledged into Dolores from other sources. After she died, the Donnell Initiative Fund continued to make grants to the Dolores Project, $100,000 grants, both to support operating expenses, but also to create a capital reserve fund for infrastructure needs that were going to emerge. Her influence didn't stop there, though. Cathlin was a member of this wonderful Zodiac book group. Many of you guys are here tonight, and I'm now a member of this group, which is just one of the many gifts Cathlin left me. But this group, once she died, sort of took the Dolores Project on as their own, and gave the funding and many of the books for the library that is now called Zodiac Library. The book group, which actually I understand started more as a women's support group, and really now is kind of a mixed support discussion book group. We occasionally get to the book, is what I know. Right. But anyway, so it's called the Zodiac Book Group, and so the library is the Zodiac Library. You'll hear it from Emily in a minute about how much Dolores has grown and evolved since those first days in the first building, which the first building is no longer standing. It was on this location, but it's not this building. I think Cathlin would agree that it's grown beyond our wildest expectations when we first met Julie Duffy. But I think she'd be so pleased to know that growth was accomplished still using this model of care that focuses on hospitality, dignity. It was one of the concerns that as it grew they might lose that, but they haven't lost it. Just as Becky Corliss, which many people know, of the Colorado Supreme Court, spoke at Cathlin's memorial service. And in her remarks, she quoted the writer and labor activist Ralph Chaplin, which I read again as I was kind of preparing to talk. Mourn not the dead who in the cruel earth lie, but rather mourn the apathetic throng, the cowed and the meek, who see the world's great anguish and its wrongs, and dare not to speak. Cathlin not only dared to speak, she dared to act, and the Dolores Project is one of her legacies. So I want to leave you with words that Cathlin said several times to me. Have courage, she said. Life is short.
Thank you, Diana. And I want to welcome Emily to talk a little bit about the Dolores Project.
I don't know how to follow that. That was so wonderful. And I learned so much. We talk a lot about, with our staff and with our guests, about our ancestors at Dolores and the folks that came before us, paved the way for us. And Diana spoke so eloquently about how Cathlin was really one of those people. And I was hired in 2015 when Terrell was running the show. I feel like you should actually be up there because you know more than I do. And this is Terrell's legacy, is this beautiful space. But I started in 2015 when I was in graduate school, just working overnights in the shelter, and I remember seeing the photos that are in our library here of Cathlin, and what I learned today was an award, which I didn't know, the sculpture, in our library and art space at that building. So it's cool that she has also, as one of our ancestors, sort of come along with us for this wild ride last many years. So Dolores was founded in 2000, as you know. We were the first 6 years. We were only open November through May-ish, I think. Winter months, overnight only. We have one staff member who's still on staff with us who last month celebrated her 20th anniversary. She's the only person that she's worked at every one of our locations and worked at that original space. And she said it was the sort of situation where, there were some bedrooms, but then at night you shove the furniture against the walls and roll out the mats and just fit people wherever you can. And we have grown a lot since then, but it is very much true that those values of hospitality and treating folks with respect and dignity and as the valuable individuals that they are is really the cornerstone of our service delivery model. And these are individuals who are in a tough situation, but it doesn't define who they are or what they are capable of contributing. And I can say after 10 years here, I've gained so much more than I have ever given. And a lot of what I've gained is wisdom from the folks that we serve. Terrell can tell this part of the story much better than me, so feel free to jump in anywhere, because she was really in the thick of it.
Yeah, but you were there.
Our original, I was a zombie working overnight, but our original building was where the patio is right now, and it's a beautiful backyard looking at mountains, which is where our parking lot is. And there was a little alley, and then on the other side of the alley, Rocky Mountain Communities had a little apartment building, and Terrell can correct me if I'm right here, but the story is that Dick knocked on Taft, their old executive director, knocked on our door one day and said, would you ever want to do so? Dolores owned most of the land, but didn't have much capital, and Rocky Mountain had a little more capital, but the project, so anyways, Arroyo Village, which is where we're sitting now, which is the whole city block, was sort of envisioned. And originally we were going to shelter in place and have the building be built around us, with 5 feet from our walls. And it became clear that that was not going to be feasible. And so for a couple years, 2017 to 2019, we became the homeless shelter, and we bumped around town to some less than ideal spaces that we really made work. And what was really interesting about that time is, one of the spaces we were in was essentially 2 giant concrete rooms, much more typical of what you see in a lot of homeless shelters that weren't really designed with intention and care for the people utilizing the space. And when we were getting ready to move into that space, we felt so concerned about the level of hospitality that we were going to be able to provide. And what we really learned in that time was that Dolores is, while we're in this beautiful space, is so much more than just the spaces we occupy, and that a lot of our impact as an organization is because we are so community focused and so human focused, and we were able to maintain the same level of care and relationship with the folks we serve, even in a less than ideal space, and those sort of values continue to guide us today. We moved back in the first week of March of 2019, and 2 weeks later we opened our supportive housing project, as you see on the north side of this building. The really goal for Arroyo was, one of the things, as Terrell used to say, the issues we were having were at the back door. So folks would come into shelter, they would start to find some stability, some resourcing, some independence, would be ready to move on, and there was nowhere for them to go, nowhere affordable and accessible for them to go. And as we know, in recent years, that problem has only been exacerbated as the cost of housing in Denver has just skyrocketed. And so the vision for Arroyo Village was really that there would be a continuum of shelter and housing, that folks could move along as they became more stable, and that there was somewhere at the back door for us to send folks. And so we have had individuals in our shelter here that have, about half of the folks that live upstairs or have lived upstairs were formerly shelter guests of ours. We have had individuals who've moved straight from shelter to this side of the building, which I'll talk about, and we've had one individual who has traversed all 3 of the communities on site. So in our shelter, we have 50 beds. We serve women, transgender, and non-binary folks. We're one of only 2 shelters in the city of Denver who is openly inclusive and providing culturally competent services for transgender people. And then upstairs, we have 35 supportive housing units. So those are reserved for individuals who were formerly chronically homeless, have some type of disability, and earn under about $25,000 a year. And then the other two wings of the building, the east and the south side, is what we call workforce housing. So there's 95 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. And that side is run primarily by our partner in the project, Rocky Mountain Communities. And they also provide the property management for our supportive housing units. And so really the goal was to move into the shelter in the fall, get settled, and then in the spring open up our housing. But because of permitting and all sorts of other issues, we had 2 weeks to basically get settled in the shelter, and then 2 weeks later we opened our housing program for the first time. So that was like really the first big sort of new program in 2019 that we had started at Dolores. And then, we've spent the first year really, a lot of the folks that we serve had been literally living on the street unsheltered for decades. And so it's a lot of work trying to help folks reacclimate to living in community, to having 4 walls around them. And we really focus on building trusting relationships with the folks and helping them build community with one another. And then 2020, we had our 1-year anniversary party in March, end of March of 2020, and then a week later, everything shut down because of COVID. And at the time, the shelter was still overnight only. Folks could stay in on the weekends, but they had to leave every morning. And us and April went 24/7. Everybody in the organization became a shelter assistant overnight, regardless of what your role was. That was it. You were working in the shelter, and we carried on that way for about 6 months. But we have stayed 24/7, and really is much better for the folks that we serve. It just was something we didn't have the resources to be able to do, and we were fortunate to get some CARES Act funding, ARPA funding, a PPP loan, and so this last handful of years, we've really just had an explosion of growth in terms of our staff size and our program. So, the first couple of years of the pandemic, it was really scary before folks could get vaccinated. We had a lot of staff that was very scared to come in, masks all the time. We had to sit people apart when they were eating multiple meals. It was just like constant chaos. And then we got some funding at the end of 2020, beginning of 2020, to really be able to provide more services on site, because what we realized is we were open 24/7 trying to keep folks in the building, keep them safe, but we didn't have anything going on. They were just kind of sitting around all day. And so we really moved from this sort of housing readiness model.
I know people want to go see it, but I'd like to know, Emily, how you build community in this neighborhood. And one thing that struck me was now our own local library is working as Gonzalez Library here, because you can't get into the main central library. And they have in there a room that is, I don't know what it's called, but they have commercial sewing machines, they have other staff and people, only one of about 10 libraries in the whole system out of 50 libraries that have this one room that's available for people to work and earn money. And there must be other groups.
Yeah, we have had quite a few guests in the shelter that have utilized that space. I can't remember, it was like Imagination Lab or something. I can't remember what it's called, but I've utilized that quite often. It's just like a few blocks up the street. We do have, we've become good friends with our city council person, which has been in terms of getting sort of to know the land and other, Jamie Torres. And sort of, she's helped sort of make introductions to other providers and other folks in the community. We do work with Servicios de la Raza quite a lot, and they're just down the street, but they come to acu-detox, like acupuncture for our guests once a week in the shelter. And so we work kind of closely with them. We're working to build a relationship with Denver Indian Center, which is just up in Westwood. And Earthlinks, which is kind of down through the park. We've had quite a few folks that go to they have like an employment program there, and they have a social enterprise where they have bees and make honey and body care products and stuff. But we work with a lot of providers, not just locally, but all over the city. There's some things that we're not experts at, and we really need to utilize resources. So one of those areas is like workforce development. There's quite a few different programs like House Working Healthy, Work Options for Women, Women's Beat Project that we partner with to help our folks get job training and permanent employment. I'm trying to think if there's other, I'm sure there's other local places. We do participate. There's what's called the Mulroy Community Center next door, which is run by DHA, and they have DHS staff on site, computer labs, so some of our housing folks will utilize that, and they let us use this space for meetings and things, because now that we're 24/7, we have like no meeting space, because when we opened, we had all these spaces during the day for our staff, but we were on top of each other. And they have quite a few community meetings there. We've had like some safety things with the mayor and Jamie, and so we try to participate in all of those things, and just the neighborhood has changed significantly, I will say, since this building opened. Yeah. Just if you go up 13th, it's all the old houses are gone, and the sort of makeup of the neighborhood has shifted quite a bit.
What is this neighborhood?
West Colfax.
West.
Yeah.
And it's called
Yeah.
the West Colfax Neighborhood Association of Neighbors, that stands for We Can. And they are a group that does their own affordable housing with their own money, and to house kids at the school at Colfax Elementary. So they would love to work with you.
Yeah.
So
On your Italian animal donations, you have coordinator in-kind.
Yeah.
That's a good
we do.
segue.
Her name is Valerie Medina. She probably let you in the front door. She was wearing like a rainbow shirt.
I know.
Yeah, so all donations we arrange through Valerie. We ask that you schedule it so we know you're coming and can receive it well. You can do that on our website. We generally don't have a lot of storage space, so clothes can be hard. We take food, hygiene items, toiletries,
Taking books from the library.
books, linen, towels, twin-sized linens and bedding. We always have a list on our website of our needs, and it has a link to an Amazon wish list as well.
Do you prefer new items?
For hygiene stuff, like unopened, like toiletries, yeah. But we do take some clothing. We'll take. Sometimes people come with like whatever they're wearing, so anything that could be used for pajamas, even just like yoga pants, sweatpants, t-shirts, and then new socks and underwear.
Linens, do you prefer them to be new or?
Generally, because we really put some wear and tear on things. Blankets, not so much, but sheets. Like a lot of folks will donate just the bed and a bag, but we do take, like the first many years we were open, we had handmade quilts on all the beds. So we do have groups that still make blankets for us, which is really cool, or donate quilts to us. Yeah. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Too much.
No.
I think Danielle's going to talk about the garden.
Yeah. Before I do talk about the garden, I did want to open the floor if anybody would like to share any memories or thoughts or words about Cathlin or the evolution of how we got here today. You don't have to stand up.
Oh, I'm not leaving. I'm going to the shade.
Yeah.
I crave the sun, but it was too much.
Hi, welcome.
Dottie,
Come on in.
there's shade over here.
Yeah, I'm coming around.
There's no.
Well, if not.
Well, I just want to say that Cathlin and Barbara Sloan and took our family and our kids on river trips, on raft tours, and one of our sons was so enamored that he became the owner of Confluence Kayaks, and he takes some people on trips himself.
Named King of the River.
King of the River.
Johnny was named King of the River by the Greenway Foundation. Well, I'll tell you more about it.
I will say something, because Catherine's kind of my stepmom growing up. And this is such an amazing legacy. What a cool thing to be part of. And just, it's so her. Like, she did nothing small. She wasn't like, let's go wade through that river. She was like, let's go kayak at the biggest rapids that I can find. And I just love seeing the evolution of this like idea and something so small growing into something so huge and impactful. Could not be a better way to like channel Kat's spirit. So amazing. What an amazing thing to be part of.
I need a shoulder to
It is a good reminder that about her legacy is that how powerful one person's drive and vision can be, and the impact it can have on so many people. All of us here, but also all the guests and residents we serve since we as well.
Actually, I want to say something, piggybacking on what Diana said. When Kath represented the 5 women secretaries who felt that they had been mistreated by the federal judges, those were the same federal judges that had appointed her to be the first U.S. attorney. So she had incredible courage and just believed her beliefs, and she went for them. And I love that she said to you, have courage, life is short.
Well, today we are excited to dedicate the Cathlin Donnell Memorial Garden. It's a space that's a tribute to Cathlin, whose generosity and dedication to the Dolores Project has left a permanent mark on our community. It's a place of remembrance, reflection, and connection to those who've been touched by her support. It seems especially fitting that this memorial is a garden, considering all the stories we've heard about the adventurer she was. Her deep love for outdoors, she found joy, peace in nature, and this garden reflects that same spirit, offering a place of reflection and renewal. The ground in which the patio and the garden, I think Emily mentioned, also happened to be on the same land that where the building was she helped us secure. She helped us transition from a winter-only shelter to a home that was provided year-long services. And now this garden continues the legacy of care and support in a new and beautiful way. The rocks you see engraved with the names honor guests of the Dolores Project who have passed away. Each of these names represents a life impacted by the consideration, compassion, and love that this organization provides, an effort that Cathlin so strongly believed in and funded. While Cathlin wasn't involved in too much of our day-to-day work, her commitment to our mission was unwavering. This garden stands as a reminder of her lasting influence and the lives that continue to change because of her generosity. Today, I'm asking for your help to ensure that both the Dolores Project and the Cathlin Donnell Memorial Garden continue to grow and thrive. The Dolores Project has been a lifeline for so many individuals, providing shelter, supportive services, and housing solutions to those experiencing homelessness. Cathlin's vision made this possible, and today we have the opportunity to honor that vision by establishing the garden as a place of healing and reflection for our guests. We have raised just under $3,000, short of our $10,000 goal to fully establish and maintain this beautiful garden. Your contributions not only help create a serene space for our guests in this beautiful garden, but they will also ensure that the Dolores Project can continue to provide year-round services, care to individuals in need. Every donation, no matter the size, plays a critical role in supporting the Dolores Project's mission and ensuring the Cathlin Donnell Memorial Garden becomes a sanctuary of peace for our community. Your generosity will help us sustain both the practical and emotional care that the Dolores Project offers, all in Cathlin's memory. As you view the garden today and our home today, I invite you to reflect on the lives represented by those stones and the ongoing work Cathlin made possible. If you feel moved to help us reach our goal for the garden, I encourage you to make a donation today. Every contribution brings us closer to maintaining a space that honors Cathlin's legacy, supports the Dolores Project, and continues the vital services we provide for the community. For those of you interested in leaving your own lasting impacts, I'd also like to share we have lots of planned giving options. By including the Dolores Project in your will or trust, you can ensure that your legacy continues to support the causes and communities you care about, just as Cathlin did. Planned giving allows you to align your personal values with long-term support for our mission, providing a way to make a meaningful difference in the lives that we serve for generations to come. More information on planned giving has been included in the materials you received today. And if you have any questions or need assistance, I and Lucas Land, our Director of Development, would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you again for your generosity, your commitment, and for being a part of this special event. Together, we can make a difference and continue this important work that Cathlin started. Now I invite you to join us to view the Cathlin Donnell Memorial Garden, the Zodiac Library, and a full tour of our facility. Your presence here today is a reminder of the incredible community that surrounds and uplifts the Dolores Project, and I'm deeply grateful for your support. Thank you. If y'all would like to view the garden, we do have a commemorative plaque at the front of the garden, and then the names on the session for. If anybody needs to grab a water, we have it out there. We have plenty of vegetables inside. We can also transition inside and begin.
Flowers that were names of people who were residents here.
Yeah, who were guests and passed away while they
And how did you pick their names?
They're actually just the names of folks who have passed away since we opened this building. Lots of guests don't always have connections with their families, and we want to make sure that in some way they're honored.
For everyone that's on the live stream, I won't do a full tour, but I'll take you inside so you can see the library as well. This is our computer area and living area where guests can hang out, watch TV. And this is our dining room, our wall of donors that have contributed. We have lots of big windows to let in lots of light in our space. And this is a media room where folks can do art projects, and we often have workshops and different things. This is the Zodiac Library. And you can see here where we have a tribute to Cathlin with her picture and a plaque, and then some pictures and information about the Zodiac Library. And that statue is actually an award that she won posthumously from the Women's Bar Association of Colorado. So we're really thankful for everybody that joined us on the live stream. I'll turn the camera around so you can see me. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us on the live stream. We really appreciate you. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or interested in contributing or learning more about the Dolores Project. I'll end the live stream now, but I really appreciate that you could be able to join us virtually. Thanks.